Hello there, it's Pete here again. Now, you might have seen an overview video where I was talking about Tim's new multi-level embossing folder release. Well, today we're going to talk about multi-levels, and we're going to talk about one of the things, or several factors, which make them so special and so unique, and some of the special techniques that you can use to get the best out of them. So let's get going. So these are the 5 folders in the release. We've got Swirls multi-level, we've got airmail, gears, diamonds, and lace. And I'm going to choose a few of these and show you some cracking techniques with those. So let's start off, I think with Swirls. We're going to look at Swirls, and I guess kind of an unboxing or an unpackaging, or whatever you want to call it. But there it is. There is the folder. So this is a multi-level. And now, if you didn't see the last video, I'm just going to explain to you exactly what a multi-level is and how it works. Now, 2D embossing folders are like this. It's just up and down and up and down and up and down. Those were the old 2Ds, the thin folders. Now, this is 3D. 3D, it can undulate, there can be valleys and peaks and troughs. It can be rounded, it can be squared off, it can be all of those things. But this is the multi-level. So you're working on a base level, then there's a second level, then there's the third level. So this is what allows us to do some very different techniques. And it's one of the things that makes multi-level embossing so unique. I'm going to take this now, and this side is relatively flat. This one has all the peaks on it. But because that's flat, what I can do is I can apply ink to this. And I'm going to use, now this is Archival ink. Obviously it's an oil-based ink. You can use distress inks, distress oxides, you can use pigment inks as well if you wish. And I'm going to apply the ink rather than take the ink pad to the folder. I'm using my Brayer. This is a Sizzix Brayer, and I'm going to apply the ink to it. The reason I use a Brayer rather than the pad, it just means if I press down on the pad, some of that ink might get in the grooves, which is cool. It looks okay. It's a nice technique, don't get me wrong, but this gives you by far a cleaner finish. Now, before I do anything else, I'm just going to take my spritzer, because when we are spritzing or when we are embossing, it's always best to apply a little clean water to both sides of the card. What that does is it allows the fibers to stretch and you get a much deeper, much cleaner emboss. Now, the effect I'm going to get is not totally clean, but that's fine, because where it breaks up, that adds a certain something. Now, I'll take the card, place it onto the folder where I want it, and bring this down. Now, I want to hold on to that now, because I'm going to bring in my trusty switch machine. This is the Tim Holtz branded switch. And when you're using 3D folders, you just use the base platform and one cutting plate. And don't worry, the instructions are always on the platform to tell you how to go about it. So there's never any confusion. And I'm going to run this through. Now, sometimes with 3D embossing, we suggest that you run it through twice. With these multi-levels, I find once is more than enough, especially when I'm using this technique. So let's put the switch to one side a second and see what's happened. Holy mackerel, how about that? Look at the way, so what you did, when we applied ink to this side, it turns it into a printing plate. So what it's done is it's transferred that ink onto that white piece of paper, but you also get the depth, you also get that detail. And let's look at some other examples. There's another green one there. There's a blue one, and I've used distress ink over the top to pick out some of the detail. There's a slightly different shade of green. How about those blues? That looks like old plasterwork. Really, really cool. And a darker blue there. That gives you even more contrast than before. So that is something that you can do with multi-levels. You can, to a degree, do that with 2D folders as well. But there is something else that you can do with multi-levels, which I want to show you. So I'll put that to one side. Now, incidentally, we've used oil-based inks. I would use like hand sanitizer or something like that to clean this up. So you can leave it, you can come back to it the next day and just clean that up with hand sanitizer, however you want to do that. I tend to clean them up straight away, in truth. But let's put this back in, because there is another technique that I want to show you. And this time I am going to use this folder. This is airmail. This is a design that was a 2D originally that Tim did many moons ago now. I couldn't tell you exactly how long, but this is multi-level rather than 2D. And I'm going to do the same kind of technique, but I am going to bring in now salvage patina, distress oxide, and crackling campfire. So I'll just put my brayer down a second, pick up another piece of white card, and I'm going to spritz as before. So that gets my card ready to go. Gives me, as I mentioned earlier, a much deeper, crisper emboss. Now, let's look at the side I want to work on. I think I'm going to work on this side. Again, you could apply this direct. Doesn't really matter, because with distress oxides, the effect is slightly more broken than with the Archival ink, but the end result benefits from that greatly. You can see the color transferring, so just pick it up with your brayer, keep going over until you get it where you want it. So distress oxides, of course, as opposed to distress inks, are highly pigmented. They are water reactive in the same way as distress inks are, but they do contain a pigment. So they work equally as well on white card and colored card. Now let's pop that to one side before placing that into the folder and closing it up as before. Now, I shall take my platform, pop that down and through my machine, which I shall bring into shot. Again, today I'm using my switch. Pop that into the mouth of the machine and through it goes. Again, just a single pass. And I'll open this up and we will see that the ink has transferred to the cardstock. Look at that. Look at the way it leaves that white detail. It doesn't touch that, okay? So I'm going to take that now because I haven't finished. There's still something to go, and this is where multi-levels really pay for themselves. So let's take off the excess ink, and I'm now using crackling campfire. So let's pick that up, but I'm going gentle. I don't want to go too strong. I'm just transferring that pigment to the top level of my embossing folder. Now notice we've got the blue on the bottom, we've got the red or the crackling campfire on the top, but we've got bits of white in between, and that is the middle level of a multi-level. So that, my friends, is a technique that you can only use with these multi-level folders. And if I just reach over, here are some other examples using a deeper blue, a lighter orange. Then we've got another blue there with a sort of a blue-green over the top, dark blue and pink, and a light blue and red. So whatever you want to do, it's going to look absolutely fantastic. Let's take these out now. There's one more thing I want to do, and this is more taking it back to what we traditionally know from applying ink to these folders. Let's take one of these tags. Now these are the Tim Holtz tags. You can see one I've pre-inked, one is still white. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to use the folder again. I don't need to take the ink off that. That's fine because I'm going to use a similar color. But again, we'll spritz. So we've got water on there. And find an area that is interesting. I think I'm going to come across like that. And we're going to run this again through my big shop switch machine. Bring that into shot like that. And run it through. Now, of course, we need to put the plate on the top. That might help Pete. So that's going to run through. Of course, the switch provides incredible pressure to give you the best, the cleanest, the crispest emboss you could ever hope to wish. And I'll take this out now and see what we've got. And that's just a multi-level folder. You can see a bit of that blue has come off the folder. That's okay. It doesn't matter. I'm going to switch across now to distress inks. So we've used archival inks. We're now using distress inks. We've used distress oxides. Each and every one gives you a slightly different look. So play around with them. See what works best. So let's take an old friend of yours and mine. This is broken china. And I'll pick that up. I'm using my, incidentally, this is my blending tool, the Sizzix blending tool. You're probably more familiar with the one that looks like a kind of a doorknob. They're great, they're absolutely fine, but this is, it's kind of more intuitive how to get to grips with it, because it's very much like holding a pen or a paintbrush. And I'm going to go into this quite heavily because I want to get in the grooves. This is going to be the base color, the light blue. I think just to add a little something, I'll also pick up with some crushed olive. Back in the day, crushed olive and broken china used to be my absolute favorite combination of colors. And I think I asked in a video a little while back which colors you would take with you on a desert island. I'm going to ask a new question. Which combination of two colors do you gravitate towards? As I say, this was one of my old favorites, and I still use it from time to time. I think the reasons are quite apparent because it is absolutely stunning. But do you have a favorite blend? If so, let us know what it is in the comments. So now I'm picking up, now this is peacock feathers. This is where I'm not pressing down heavily. Before I was, now I'm going much lighter because I want this to pick up the top level. So you see how it's just picking out the detail? I'm not pressing down to the level below. So this gives me added contrast, which wasn't there previously, but because I'm using peacock feathers, it gives a wonderful balance with both the crushed olive and the broken china. One last thing, let's pop that back there. I'm going to come in with one of my browns, I think walnut stain. I would have to say walnut stain vintage photo. Do I have a preference? No, they are different. It's whatever works for you, whichever one you prefer. Walnut stain's a little darker. Vintage photo is a little richer, a lot more red in it. But they are both absolutely perfect for just working around the perimeter to get that vintage look. Now, that's that folder. So it's very different from what we did before using these distress inks, but it is making the best of our technology, which of course is multi-level. Now this one, what I did with this, I used this set. This was in Tim's last release. This is the edges, and I took one of the dies, I think the decal edge, and I cut this here and here, like that, before attaching the pieces back onto this folder. And it's given me something like that. You can see the decal edge there. You can see the alphabet, which I've cut also using the alphabet from this wonderful, wonderful set. So the dies and the folders are meant to be used both independently and together. You're getting the best of both worlds. Do you know what? I was going to end the video there, but there's one other thing, something that just popped into my head, something that I haven't done. So we're going to go back to that lovely Swirls embossing folder. Okay, so I'll spritz as before. Make sure we get the water all over that. Pop it into the folder. Now this time I'm not applying any ink or anything to the folder itself. We just want to get the emboss. So pop that between the plates and bring in my switch machine before embossing. Now, as I said, with multi-levels, one run through the machine is usually more than enough. You can do it twice. If you did want to go twice, you simply press that button and it reverses the direction. But I think one is going to be fine because that is my folder. Now, you could do this in black, you could do this in white. It doesn't really matter. But for today, I am going to do this. I did it in white so that you could see the beauty of that emboss. But I'm also going to do it in black. So let's pop this again back through our machine as before. Let's bring her in. It's a real workhorse, the switch. Never lets me down. So we run that through and that one's going to be black. So at the moment, there's not much to see. Not much at all. And you can see this is one I've used before. There's a bit of gilding wax on it. It doesn't matter. It's a bit of spare card. That's what I mean. This was a last minute make. Let's take this lovely orange color. We'll put some out there and this gorgeous pink. So the colors, in case you're interested, are both melon and tangerine. I don't think I need to explain which is which. I'm going to dry brush, but it's not dry brush like we would normally have it. There is quite a bit of color on here, but you'll notice when I'm going over like this, using this technique, sort of top down, you will notice that it's still leaving bits of black in between. It is darker in some areas, lighter in others. That is all part of the look of this. That is something done by design. At this point in time, you're probably thinking, it's a bit of a mess, Pete, actually. But you have to trust the process. That's the thing. And with these mixed media techniques, I know some folks, sometimes they're a bit afraid to try some of these because it might be new to you or it's something that you've never really played around with before. But you know what? What's the worst that can happen? It's an adventure. So let's bring in some of that. Look what happens when I bring in that orange. Oh my word, isn't that fabulous? You could dry this off at this point. You could let it dry naturally. You could take a heat tool to it. Doesn't really matter. But we've got them blending. Again, I'll come with a bit more pink and I'll blend the pink into that lovely orange as well. So that's okay. That's okay. That's kind of where I want it to be. But there's one more thing to do. And this is where the fun really starts, because I'm going to take this, it's a highlight flesh is the color, but I'm going to put some onto my mat like so, and I'm going to pick that up with my brayer. Okay, let's run through there. You don't want to put too much. Make sure that you spread that out so you've got a nice thin coating all over your brayer like that. That's really important because we call it highlight, and that's exactly what it does. It picks out those high points and it gives it that highlight contrast. And because I didn't let the paints dry, it's actually blending on the surface with both the orange and the pink. But it's a lovely way to make the best of multi-level embossing technology. You see, what started off as looking a bit scrappy has actually come out really well, and all those little black areas in between, that really adds to it, which is why I did it on black card. So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed that. There's 4 really cool techniques, and 3 of which you can only really do with multi-level. That is why Tim has embraced multi-level. That's why we love multi-level, and that is why I hope you will love multi-level as well. We have an overview for this. Go back and check out the different designs that are available in this new release. Also, go to timholtz.com and see what Tim says about these folders. I'm sure he's got many more techniques than I could ever come up with, because that's what he does, you know. But thanks for joining me. I've been Pete, and I will see you again soon.